Welcome everybody back to another video. Today I'll be breaking down this super crazy Yoda OTK combo. Had an absolute blast playing this deck, and with set 4 coming along, it gets even better. So let's jump right into it. So this deck is definitely what I would consider off meta, but the combo is so crazy, you're guaranteed to have a great time using it. I personally love watching my opponent's head explode when I manage to pull it off, and one of the most fun parts is that You're My Only Hope, one of the key cards in the combo, forces you to be at 5 or lower HP on your base, meaning it's going to be a very tight finish. So let's jump right into the combo. Now, this combo requires a pretty specific setup. You have to have You're My Only Hope, Endless Legions, and either a removal card in hand or a unit on the board to make it work. On your turn, you're going to start by playing the removal spell or by killing a unit. Then, on your next action, you're going to activate Yoda's ability to draw a card and place Endless Legions on top of your deck. Then, on your next action, you can play You're My Only Hope and Wind to cast Endless Legions for free from the top of your deck. Of course, like I mentioned, it requires you to have 5 HP or less to trigger it for free. You don't want to be playing Endless Legions in this deck unless it's for free, because typically it would cost 18. So that's a little unplayable. One of the most important cards in our deck is Fighters for Freedom. This card creates value by playing a lot of red cards, and in this deck, we're going to play a whole bunch in a single action. Clone is used to replicate the Fighters for Freedom, and since they also count as red cards, they will trigger Fighters for Freedom's ability too. Since none of these cards are unique, the most amount of them you could have is 6 in a deck. Now, this equation looks a little scary, but let's break it down. When calculating damage from Fighters for Freedom, it's a sequence that starts at 0, being the first Fighters for Freedom card you played. It then increases at a rate equal to the total of Fighters for Freedom and clone cards on the battlefield. Other red cards trigger Fighters for Freedom ability, but they do not increase the sequencing because they don't have the Fighters for Freedom ability. Let's take a look at an example on the right here. In this example, we'll have a total of 4 Fighters for Freedom, which could be clones or fighters since it doesn't make a difference. Then we'll also have 3 other red units in our resource pile. And once we do the math here and plug in the numbers, we'll get a total of 18 damage. Well, 18 damage isn't going to win us the game, so how can we deal more damage? Red unit abilities are a great way to deal more damage. So here are the other 6 cards that we include in the deck to deal a ton of damage. Devastator and Shadowcaster are brand new set 4 cards, and they synergize greatly with our game plan. We can play these cards after we play our Fighters for Freedom to deal additional damage. K2, Ruthless Raider, and Droid Missile Platform have when defeated effects, which allows Shadowcaster to duplicate them. How can we trigger these when defeated abilities in the same action as Endless Legions? We play Squadron of Vultures for that. This card allows us to sacrifice up to 3 units to trigger their when defeated abilities. Any combination of these cards allows us to deal more damage than simply the Fighters for Freedom alone. So to showcase this, let's take a look at a real world example. So just like we did a little bit ago, we can calculate the total damage using Fighters for Freedom. In this example, we'll have 2 Fighters for Freedom and 1 clone for a total of 3 Fighters for Freedom. We also have 2 Devastators, 2 Ruthless Raiders that deal damage when played. We also have 1 Squadron of Vultures that will allow us to sacrifice these Ruthless Raiders to trigger their when defeated abilities. So, from Fighters for Freedom, we can calculate that we'll deal a total of 20 damage. Then, it is really easy to add up the when played and when defeated abilities from our other unit to get the total damage dealt with this Endless Legion play. We'll get a total of 36 damage. That's super good. And just as a side note here, remember to play these cards in order because it's very important that you get the most amount of damage out of your cards. If you play Squadron of Vultures before you play the Ruthless Raiders, you won't get to trigger their when defeated abilities, and so you'll miss out on 4 damage. It's also important to remember to play the Fighters for Freedom and the Clone Troopers First, because if you play any red cards without the Fighters for Freedoms on the battlefield, you will not get their damage. And let's take a look at the list in its entirety. The Swooty Bee link will be in the description below. If you want to try it yourself, I highly recommend it. 6 total aspects are represented in this build, and most of them are focused around our combo. You can use cards to stall out the game with Entrenched or one of the Sentinels, and we also have defeat effects, which will help reduce the total amount of damage coming in. When you're in position to strike, be sure to place Endless Legions on top, and let me know what you think about this combo. Do you think you'll love it? Too much math? Let me know. So if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more, and if you want to, follow me on Twitch. It's a great way to come join me for some fun games, and I'll see you again very, very soon.